Alrighty, welcome back to episode number 41 of KC Grid Talk. As always, my name is Caleb Viesca, and we just got wrapped up for the first rounds of the Rotax Winter Series, and a couple of guys actually impressed us a lot, a couple of breakthrough weekends. And today's guests are two drivers that one we haven't gotten to talk to yet this year, and the other who had a breakthrough weekend this past weekend. Laurent Legault and Caden McQueen are going to be on the show tonight. But as always, let's welcome in my wonderful co-host, Alexander Suro and Emery Lida. You guys, sadly, we're not at the Rotax Winter Trophy opening rounds, but I'm sure you guys are watching on from home. Initial thoughts? What'd you guys kind of think about how the weekend panned out?
Emery, start with you.
Yeah, I think the weekend as a whole, we got, in my opinion, 4 really good races across the top 2 classes between Saturday and Sunday. It's always fun for me to watch DD2 racing. There's kind of a special art to it. There's a special style of kind of blend between gearbox racing and single speed racing that was on display, and we really got to see 2 fun races on that end. And then as well as that, we'll get into talking about Laurent Legault in a minute when he comes on the show. Aiden and Grata really shined throughout the weekend. There's obviously the drama between Jensen Burnett and Kai Hunter, but you look through the senior categories, and then as well as that, looking down through the rest of the grid, there are stories aplenty to go through the weekend. And again, I think Orlando, one of the best tracks in the country when it comes to racing. We're going to be there 2 more weekends after this, and I have to say, for rounds 1 and 2, I said after Winter Series, there was a lot of good racing. Now for the Winter Trophy racing on the Rotax side of things, I have to say it was very impressive to see the quality of racing that we saw.
Alex?
I agree. I agree with everything that Emery said. For one, DD2, we touched on it last week with Brandon Carr. He said, listen, it's a different style. He's never driven a shifter before, but for anybody who's driven a shifter and a DD2, they always reference the difference in style. It's not the exact same, right? You're not going to see guys really attack the corner as hard as you would in a shifter, but it's still more than you can attack in a single speed. So anytime we get DD2 on display, it's rare, but it's awesome. It's what makes Rotax to me stand out a little bit between engine packages. Just it's the only one that has the DD2. And then you look at the single speed stuff amongst all classes. Great racing as always. Orlando provides, Rotax provides. We had drama, we had close finishes, and we had stand-up performances. You can't ask for more in a weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And look at Alex, so official with the Alex Searle Racing IMSA on the side. This guy levels up every weekend with his polo. Still haven't gotten one, so we'll see how it goes. Also, speaking of IMSA, a couple of standouts. Obviously, Danny Formau was in second, and then a mechanical DNF put him out of contention. That was sad, but a huge shout out to Danny, who we've had on the show. I believe Connor was running as well. Connor DeFilippi.
Connor DeFilippi was running very well.
He may or may not have been involved in one of the biggest controversies of the weekend.
But it wasn't his fault.
It was not his fault. Not his fault at all. He was just involved in it.
Shout out Tommy Milner. If you know, you know. T-shirts available on Tommy Milner. I don't know what website it is, but awesome moment. You guys watching probably have all seen it.
Yeah, and as always, Casey's very own Connor Zilic, triple stint to finish off the race, and
unbelievable.
Didn't go their way, but still, the drive that an 18-year-old kid can put on is, I'm saying kid, I'm only 2 years older than him, but Connor's always impressive.
What's most impressive about that drive from Connor Zilic is the fact that you have a team with SVG, Scott McLaughlin, and Ben Keating. And he was the driver they chose to finish the race. That means he was the fastest driver. He qualified for the car too. That is unbelievable. In a class that, when I spoke to a bunch of drivers this weekend because I was at the Rolex 24, arguably the hardest class to win, GTD Pro over GTP. With how stacked it is and how close it is for 24 hours straight. For Connor to be maybe a mistake or 2 away from having a real shot at it with an hour to go, unreal.
Yeah.
With the fifth fastest overall median time for both GTD categories. For an 18-year-old, his first real GTD experience, to be up at the front with a shot to win that with consistently elite stint times, whether it be his early stints, his qualifying effort, even though it didn't sound great on paper, to be, I believe, was 8th, for him to run up front and have consistency in the times as kind of a new entry, kind of being new to the GTD side of things, was really impressive. And again, the triple stint, like Alex mentioned, or like Caleb mentioned, to be that fast if you're relied on to close out a race with a shot at the win. I mean, the mistake, not great, but ultimately, I mean, Connor Zilisch star in everything he drives in, start again this weekend.
Yeah, and a couple of other stars across the pond. We're having a good weekend. Firstly, welcome to Setting the Grid. And we're going to talk about a little bit of our younger drivers, some of our juniors, some of our micros and minis overseas. Firstly, Josh Bergman, a win by 2 seconds at the opening round of the WSK at La Conca. Firstly, congrats to Josh Bergman. I watched it. It was a great drive. We were all rooting on for him. And yeah, round of applause for Josh Bergman here, fellas. Did a great job to open it up, as well as finishing second in that race. Win Godshock as well. 1-2 for the Kiddix team and 1-2 for drivers that we have here racing full-time in the U.S. and get to see them kind of start to flourish. Another round of applause here for Win Godshock as well. Next, Michael McGoy, OKJ winner. He finished second on track, and after penalties, he was able to get it done. A huge achievement. Qualified on the pole as well, I believe. Won the first of his heat races, but Michael McGoy, super impressive. I actually talked to Ryan Perry this weekend, and he was super, super excited about it. He had a smile on his face, so Ryan was happy, and I know all of us here were happy as well for Michael. And lastly, your most recent race winner at the Scusa Winter Series, Lucas Palacio, out of North Carolina, his first win in the OKNJ class, his first race, and his first his first race in OKNJ and his first win. So yeah, these guys did a great job, made us all proud. So a round of applause to the 4 of these drivers that were standouts all weekend long. It was honestly really, really great to watch them all. And I guess, fellas, while we're on the topic of standouts, I think this is quite fitting to invite our first guest of the show on. Standout this weekend. A lot of them, I guess, named by his driver coach, Ryan Norberg, LeGoat. This guy could be better than LeBron when it comes to go-kart racing, is better than LeBron. We'll welcome on the show here, Laurent Legault. Firstly, welcome to the show, man. And how are you doing?
Thank you very much, guys. I'm doing great, honestly, man. I love being here in Florida right now.
How is it up in Canada? I know we were talking before the show. It's quite cold out there.
It's freezing. Like I talked to my dad like a couple of hours ago, and like my cat's gonna go outside. They tried to, and like they would come back for like they would go out for 1 minute and then come back in and then never go out again. It's absolutely terrible. So I love it down there right now.
So you need to bring them to Orlando next year, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, maybe, but they're not very good with traveling. I tried before and it didn't end very well. So I think I'll just leave them in the house for now.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember I didn't go this weekend to Orlando, but last weekend it was really cold and I was like bundling up, and then we have all these Canadians coming down in shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah, I was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I bet I wasn't there this weekend, Caleb, but was Henry in shorts and a t-shirt?
Henry's always in shorts.
That's his thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you guys that are familiar with our very own Henry Baudet, Mr. Rotax himself, he has drivers have their superstitions. Henry has his superstition as well. He's always wearing shorts when it comes to a race weekend. So he was in shorts, and I knew he was going to be from the start. So he was in shorts as well. But Laurent, firstly, let's take a look at your weekend this past weekend at the Rotax Winter Trophy. Firstly, a great job by you all weekend long. And these are, I guess, a couple of your highlights that you have here. You actually finished second both of the days. I know you would have wanted more, but seriously, definitely a weekend to be proud of.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think on Saturday I maximized what I could have done. Like I started pretty far down the field, and at that point of the race, like we can see Aiden was just so far down the road. So I think on Saturday I maximized it, but I still think looking back to it on Sunday, I don't think I did a good enough job. In the last few laps, I definitely had a shot at the win, but I don't think I fully took it. So for sure, it was a great weekend, but I think I could have maybe ended up with a bit more.
And it was so a photo finish here. This is the last couple of frames that we have, but it was pretty close in between you and Aiden. I think we just made a post about the finishing margin. It was like 0.038, the difference in between you and Aiden coming to the line. But still, that was a great weekend by you. And you've actually been running over here for quite some time, but I feel like that was one of the weekends where you really kind of put it all together.
Yeah, you're right. Like compared to some of the newer guys that are coming up there, like I've been in the US racing for almost, I think, 3 years. I think my first year was like in 22, if I remember well. So it's been a while. I haven't been here a lot last year, but I think I'll come back a bit more this year compared to last year. But yeah, for sure, it's been a while, and I just feel happy to finally be able to put a performance that make my team proud.
Yeah, and a 1, 2, 3 for you guys. I think that was the coolest thing. Obviously, Ryan wasn't racing, and then Kai wasn't kind of in contention for the win. Obviously, he opted for a different tire strategy. But for you guys to put it 1, 2, 3, I'm sure Mike and Ryan were pretty happy about that, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. They were pleased. Like when we came back to the tent, they were ecstatic, and we were as well. Like it was just such a great week, such a great day for all of us. For me, Aiden, Lewis, and honestly, to finish 1, 2, 3 was really good, even for the team. So I'm super proud of what we've achieved, and I know Mike was really happy as well.
Yeah. And I guess coming off of a difficult year last year, I mean, you mentioned it yourself, but I mean, you had a strong 2023 both in Canada and over here. Last year, not so good. What do you think made the difference this weekend to be able to kind of get off of the snide, so to speak, and put yourself back on the podium?
I would say it's more of a mindset thing. So for the from like I would say the this year's Supernats, so like the beginning of this year, I think I've taken a different approach to things, and I think that helped me a lot. I'm a lot more relaxed at the racetrack, and I would say I'm more composed during the race. Before, like when I started racing back in America and in Europe, I would be like a bit of I would say, running wild on my emotions. So like something would happen, I would get in my head, and then I would completely lose it. And that happened a lot of time in the US. Well, I think this year I'm just a lot more composed, and I think that's what made a difference.
How did you kind of adjust your mindset?
I think that really came from my dad. My dad is a really chill person. Anyone that knows him, he's like probably the chillest guy on the racetrack. Like even when he comes to the tent with on race day, like he's always like super calm, and he really helps me with things. So I think Supernats 24 this year was really hard for me because it was hard mentally, and because of the result didn't come, that was really really hard, I would say. But he really helped me with it. So, and I think that's because of him that I'm able to have this more relaxed mindset on race day.
Yeah, so I guess next here, your story actually is a little bit different than everybody else's. You started racing just a couple of years ago. I would say, well, a couple of years ago. I would say like 6, 7 years ago, a lot later
Yeah,
than
6 years.
everybody else is used to. So I guess talk to us about your story in karting and how you kind of got to where you were this past weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it all started in 2019, if I remember well. I was looking around for a place to do go-karts because my dad took me on my birthday, I think 2 years prior, to do like rental karts, and I really liked it. So I wanted to do more. And they found out about the Ben Cooper program. So basically, Ben in 2019 was just starting his little like academy and stuff. So I joined in, and that's how it started. I started in 206, like you said, and I first went to the US in 2020 for the Florida Winter Tour, actually, when they used to do Briggs. So I did this for a couple of years, and then in 21 I fully made the switch to Rotax, and I started out immediately in the senior rank because I started I think I was 14 years old when I started, so I was I was pretty late on the startup, so I immediately got into seniors, and then I stayed in Canada for most of 21 actually, and then in 22 that's when I went more to the US. I did the Florida Winter Tour with Ben, and then Ben introduced me to Rolston Performance Group in 22, and I've been running with them ever since.
How
Yeah.
tough
So
how tough is it for your first basically your first race to be in the senior class? I mean, was that daunting at all? Intimidating for you?
man, that was rough. Like honestly, especially coming from like regional race in 206, my racecraft was so bad, it was laughable. Like I would get bullied off the racetrack every single time. I could put a lap together like sometimes to be like somewhat close to the leaders, but then when it would come to the races, oh my God, it was depressing. Like that's the best way I could put it. It was so bad. I would get knocked off the racetrack every single lap, and like I was lucky if I could like make a corner defending, basically. So it was rough, but I learned from that. Sometimes you learn from the hard way. The hard way sometimes is better. So
Do you have any specific moments that stand out as like where you're like, oh man, this is rough?
yeah, I mean, let's say I think my first American race in the SCUSA Pro Tour was it? Yeah, in 22. First race for RPG, first race in X30 Senior, first time at NOLA as well. I remember I did the not the SCUSA, sorry, the Texas
Sprint racing
is
series.
it?
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. I did that. So I did that as a test weekend prior to the SCUSA. And I remember that weekend there was, I think Kremers was racing, the Mellows
Yeah.
was racing as well. And I remember I qualified in front of them. And then I was really bad on the tire saving part because I was kind of new to it. So I think I had done like maybe 4 months of racing in two strokes up until that point. So like I was sliding all over the place. I was killing my tires. And like 6 laps into a race, I would fade off like crazy. It was so bad. So then I was doing that race, and then at one point I was in front of them, and I remember at the end of the straight at NOLA, you guys know the long straight.
Yeah.
Kremers smashed me off the racetrack, and then like hard, like my neck went back to like my exhaust pipe. It was bad. And then I came back on the racetrack, and the Mellow, who had I think spun or something, had an incident, sent me the next corner, and I went off track again, like 2 corners in a row. So I think that was like my introduction to American racing. It was brutal, man.
Well, also the drivers that you're racing, man. A world champ, first of all, puts you off the racing line, and then Indy 500 starter and race leader for a couple of laps puts you off. So that's kind of like it'd be scary, kind of getting into that, I would say.
I mean, I was looking behind on the straight like 5 times, so for sure I was scared, man.
I feel like I've seen the TikTok of that incident.
Oh,
Where
for
you
sure
just
you have.
drive
100% you
straight
have. I saw it as well, so you should. I'm pretty sure you saw it as well.
When was the first race where you're actually like kind of starting to get into the groove of things?
I would say the first race was probably Newcastle, the final round of the Pro Tour in 22. I got a top 10 finish at, I think, what was it? I think it was the Saturday race. Yeah, that was I think the first race where I actually like started to do good. I got smashed off the racetrack on the start, like not even the first lap on the start. Like when we accelerate into the trial lines, I got smashed off, and I had to drop with like a bent steering wheel. So, and then I made my way up from like dead last to like inside the top 10, and I think that was like when I really started to like, oh, I'm actually doing good now. So I think that was the first race. I think it was round 5 of the 2022 Pro Tour, I would say.
And so we always kind of get the chance to see guys like yourself, guys like Donovan Bonilla, guys like even Hayden as well kind of improve over the course of their years working with Mike and with Ryan and kind of the whole ecosystem that Rawlson Performance Group has. What do you feel like has helped you improve the most as you look back on the last 3 years working with the team and kind of seeing your growth from when you first came over with Ben to now?
That's a great question. I would say the thing I would need to improve the most, looking back on things, is that what you said?
Just kind of how you like, what do you feel like has been the biggest factor in your improvement? Kind of what's helped you improve the most over those years?
Oh, I would say for sure the coaching. Like honestly, RPG they do such a great job on the coaching. Like we have such excellent staff members, and that really helps. Like every time we go on the racetrack in X30, for example, and even in Rotax, like we have Ryan Norberg, which is probably one of the best US drivers of all time, who is always with us. We do video review, and like I would say the coaching is really the biggest part that helped me. Like because I'm really bad on my own. That's something I realized over the years. Like I'm really bad at figuring out things on my own, so I always need a bit of help from people. And the coaching that I received from Ryan all over these years really helped me, I would say.
Yeah, and so now we have the 2 podium. We're in obviously amazing result for the first 2 weekends. What do you need more of? What do you need to get better at? Kind of as the question that you kind of alluded to at the start.
The thing I would say it's mostly like my decision making is what's really holding me back. Like if we take for example the Sunday race, like on the last lap, I think looking back at it, I had a chance to make a move on Aiden at the end of the straight, but in that moment I didn't take it for whatever reason. I'm still not sure what happened, to be fair. But I would say that's probably the one thing that's always costing me. Like even at the start, sometimes my starts are really bad, and that really puts me off and makes my race a lot harder. So I would say decision making is probably the thing I need to improve on the most right now, and maybe just a tiny bit of consistency.
So now I guess you and Ryan have worked together for about 3 years now, starting on year 3. What's your favorite story about working with Ryan?
Oh boy, let me think a bit, because there's a ton of memories. 3 years is a long time. So
Here,
let's say.
I'll
Oh yeah. Oh, I got a good one. I got a good one. Um, so basically, it was in NOLA when I started in 22.
uh-huh.
So I did the test weekend, and then I did the race weekend at SCUSA, and then we would do video reviews after every session, right? So we do data, we do GoPros, we watch the footage and stuff. And then I came up to Ryan one day, I think it was on the kind of Saturday or something. And then I told him, okay, Ryan, I figured it out. And then I showed him like in the morning warm up, like I did a line he told me to. And then like he was like, oh my God, wow, you did it finally. I've only been saying that for like the past week or so. Because he told me like every single session, like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to wait a bit and then turn later for like a week straight. And then I did it. And then I came to the next session, and guess what? And it went back again. And then he had to tell me the same exact thing. And I think he continued until the end of the weekend. And I remember he was so mad. He was so mad because he kept going back to the same things all the time. So I think that's probably my funniest memory I have with Ryan Fisher.
And I guess nextly here, I also saw him post this week. He kind of went over our graphic and put LeGoat. When did you get that nickname, LeGoat?
I don't exactly remember when it was from, but I know it's because Ryan has always had trouble spelling my name, because you know in the English language, like the A and U is like not very. It's not something that's very common. So he's always been struggling with it, and then he would say my name like LeGoat, like this, always, always, always. And then at one point when I did good, like he just changed it. Like I think he made like a spelling mistake or something. He just said LeGoat, and it sounded like this. So that's when he started to use it, and then everybody in RPG uses it now. Like I can do like I can't walk 2 minutes without someone saying it to me. So
That's actually
funny.
great.
yeah, it's great. Much better than any other nickname I could have gotten, right?
Do you have any nicknames before the GOAT?
I'm not sure, man. Maybe behind my back, but in
I was
front
gonna
of
say,
my
yeah,
face, I don't know.
that you don't know of, yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe when Marion smashed you off.
All right, I guess moving into the Rotax side of things, you obviously had a great weekend this past weekend, but you've actually been to the grand finals before. You were there last year. Talk to me about that experience, what it was like. Was last year your first time going out to the grand finals?
It was actually 2 years ago in Bahrain when they last went to Bahrain in 23.
Okay,
I didn't go. I didn't qualify for last year because I just didn't do good enough, right? So
Yeah.
it's easy as that. But yeah, I went in 23 in Bahrain, and honestly, it was such a wonderful experience. Like you get there on like I think a week before the race. You get there on like I think on Sunday, the week before. And then on Monday, you have like you come to the track, you do everything, you get the registration. I think you go pick up your card as well, or maybe, or is that the day after? I'm not sure, but it's just such a wonderful event. Like you have drivers from all over the world combined in one small part. You're all under like one big tent. So there's no like, oh, you have like all these little teams separated from each other. It's like everybody's in the same place. It's noisy constantly. You can hear people working on the cart, people coming in and out. And honestly, it's just something different from everything else I've done, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, so you're obviously there with Team Canada, and I'm guessing like the entire team is kind of in a section of the tent. Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, every single country is separated from by like little sections. So basically, I don't know how they did it, but I think there's like section A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we'd basically have like maybe Japan and like um, UAE in that first section, and then you would have like South Africa and the US. So it was all like this, and I think we were next to the Australians, I think. And I remember on the first day, like we didn't understand what was going on. They pulled up a ladder, like a massive ladder, and they just like put a how'd you call that? Like a big sign,
A banner?
Australia. Yeah, a big banner with a big Australian flag, and they put little kangaroos all around it. So like I saw that thing. I was like, what are they doing, man? And I think that's part of the event that's so cool. It's just like you see people from all different cultures and from all around the world.
Do you ever
Yeah, and
suggest Mike to put some decor around the RPG tent?
Yeah, I don't know what they could put though. Maybe an American flag. Like honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure what we could put. Do you guys have any idea?
I mean,
you guys have
They-
guys driving from all around the world, so
I
I
mean-
mean,
it's based in the Pacific Northwest. Few Canadian drivers.
I was
I
gonna
feel
say
like,
Canadian one too. You got to put a Canada flag up there.
I feel like
Yeah, true, but that's not really what we do. That's more a US thing, right? Like you go in Canada, you never see like a big giant Canadian flag all around. It's mostly in
No,
the US you see that.
I was in Toronto last year, and I was driving. I don't know what road it is, but middle of nowhere, going to Toronto, and there was a huge Canadian flag. I've never seen a flag that big in my entire life. So I don't
Yeah,
know
but
if you know.
this guy hasn't
that's
been in
why they
Texas.
Apparently not.
no. But I would say it's because like the English speaking Canadians, because there's like the French speaking like me, and then there's the English part. We're like kind of separated a bit. And I would
We're-
say those guys are mostly the one they like to copy the US a lot. So that's probably why they had one. But we don't have that in the French speaking part.
Where are you from in Toronto, in Canada again?
Montreal.
Montreal. Okay, so is that? I don't know a lot about the Canadian. The Quebec is
Yeah,
like
so
the French Canadian, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the basically the state that's the similarity to it, and that's the French speaking one. So that's where I come from. So basically, you have like this. The Quebec is like the only province that really speaks French, and the rest is all English. Like Aiden. Aiden comes from Ontario, I think, which is just right next to us.
So you guys shouldn't like each other then. Is that how this works?
Maybe I would say. I mean, some people don't like them. Some do. It's like, you know. Oh, come on, Aiden. I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this comment at all. 100% false.
Well, speaking of Aiden, you and him are in, I guess, the fight for the championship coming this weekend.
Yeah.
I talked to Aiden about it, going back to Bahrain, and he goes, you know, man, Bahrain is just on the other side of the world, 24-hour flight, you know, yada, 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 kind of telling me. He's like, but it would be cool to get a ticket and go represent Canada. How special would it be for you to go back and represent Canada this year in Bahrain?
It would be super special, man. Honestly, the first time I went around, like it was such a great event, and I don't feel like I did my best. So like to get another shot at it would be wonderful. Like I just if I'm able to do it, I would be so happy to go back. Maybe not in Bahrain because Bahrain is it's a special place. I would have preferred maybe like somewhere in Europe. But I mean, just being able to compete for my country is already something special.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond that too, I mean, you're really through 2 weekends out or 2 races out of 4 races, a legitimate chance at a U.S. national championship this early in the year. I mean, how big is this for your confidence, knowing, I guess, how 2024 went, and in general, kind of your biggest success so far on the state side?
Oh, for sure, it's a big boost of confidence. Like I never expected when I'm coming to those weekends that like I'm going to be fighting up front. I know that like on special occasion I can put my nose up there, like be with the top guys. So like when I came into this weekend, I knew I wouldn't be too bad, but I didn't think I would be at the front this much. And to know that I'm able to put out these sorts of performances is something that really helps me with my confidence for sure, especially coming into next week.
And nextly here for me, it seems like I don't know. Well, I've seen the majority of you guys in I feel like Rotax is more common up in Canada. What is it about the Rotax package, I guess, that you like so much and that I guess suits your driving style?
I mean, I would say the Rotax package is just like so much fairer than the others. I mean, take for example, like the Rock one, sorry. I've been to the some of the Rock races. I have an example, the Rock Vegas in 23. I've been there with RPG. It was 2 years ago. It was me, Ryan, and Nate Cicero, who races in MX5 now.
Mhm.
And we came to the first day. We were a second and a half off. Like, can you imagine Ryan Norberg and Nate Cicero being 1.5 seconds off?
Mhm.
Like, we were so slow on the first day, and like we didn't understand why. And then we received data from somewhere else, someone else. I think it was from like one of the speed drivers, and like you could see like the of the corners they would just rip, and it would be outrageous. And that's the last time I raced Rock because it's just such an unfair package. And I think the Rotax, I've raced a Rotax in Europe, and it's so even on the power. When you have a good engine, like you don't really have anything to gain from it. So I would say it's mostly the reason why I like Rotax so much is just because it's so fair, and it's also a lot more relaxed than the X30. So
Mhm.
you know the X30, you have the MJ yellows with
Mhm.
the reds or the yellows.
Yellows,
Yellows.
yellows.
Yellows, yeah. Which is like such a soft compound, and you really gotta attack it a lot. And that's something I'm really not good at, and I'm struggling with. And that I think that's why sometimes my performance in X30 are a bit up and down. It's just I'm not really suited for this kind of aggressive driving style, and I just think the relaxed one of the Rotax suits me a lot more.
Yeah, with the I guess, and that's actually interesting because the Mojo tires, me and Xander were kind of going back and forth all weekend long talking about, I guess, the wear and stuff like that. But what about the Mojo tires? I guess do you find different to, I guess, what we're used to over here with the MG yellows?
I mean, it's just like the MG yellows and the D5. They just work in such a different way. So you have like the the um, the MG yellows who have so much grip that you really need to push the entry of the corners and really like be on the limit of the tires every single time to extract performance. Whereas the Mojo, it's more like because the tires are a bit less grippy, you really got to prioritize the exit a bit more, and it makes it for, a more relaxed driving style. So you don't have to push the entries of the corners so much. You don't have to like roll so much speed in the middle. So it's a lot more relaxed on the mind and on the body than the MG yellows. And also, I would say for me personally, it feels like when I'm driving the MGLs, like I never know where the limit is compared to
Mhm.
like the D5s. Like when I'm driving the yellows, for example, like you brake at one spot, but you don't know, oh, can I brake deeper than there? I'm just personally for me, I'm just never sure when I'm driving with these tires. But with the Rotax, it feels like it gives so much more feedback to the driver.
And actually, speaking of Kai this weekend, he was talking about the softer sidewall on the Mojos. Do you have, I guess, any input from you that we have you on the show for, I guess, a longer period of time?
Um, I mean, I would say I'm not very good with the technical side of it compared to Kai, but
Mhm.
I kind of understand what he means by that. Like the D5 have a very like high peak, and then they have a tendency to fade off a lot. So it's like talking about the sidewall. Like when they're new, they have like a 2 or 3 laps where they're really really grippy, and then when the tire wears down, it's like they're when the sidewall gets used, like they just have no grip at the end. That's why I think me and Aiden were struggling so much on
Mhm.
Sunday because we used the new tires on Saturday. Like we had, I would say, a lot harder, sorry, lot older tires than the others, and that really affected us on Sunday because we just had no grip basically.
Yeah, and whenever you guys rolled up to the grid on Saturday, I think it was you, Aiden, and obviously Lewis Goff,
Yeah.
who rolled up with those new sets of tires, and it was, I mean, watching it from the side, I was like, I'm watching two different races, the top three, and then 4 on back was kind of all together and racing. Who is it? Joni who goes in and kind of decides what strategy you guys are going with, or who kind of inputs on that?
Yeah, it's for all the setup wise and strategy related, it's Joni that takes care of it. So basically, we walked up on the Thursday, and then he just came up to me and he said, "Oh yeah, tomorrow you're qualifying on the same tire." I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure, fine." And I think that was a great idea. I still think it is, even though we struggle on Sunday a bit. I still think like that was the right decision because we, like you said, we rocked up on Saturday and we were basically untouchable, and we were still able to qualify up in the top three, even on the one set old tires. So yeah, Johnny takes these decisions, and I think he's really good with it as well. And I think that decision from him was
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, that was
What
great.
What do you think you could? How can you, should I say, change your style towards as we get into the season? We're going to use the MGs more often. How are you going to be able to kind of adapt to it?
That's a good question. I reckon I just need maybe a bit more track time. I would say I'm someone who's kind of slow with the learning. That's probably why it took me so long to actually get a result that matters. So I would say I would need more track time. I rarely drive the X30 because even when I go to Europe, I drive the Rotax and never touch the X30 package. I probably touch it like once or twice a year. So I would say I would definitely need a lot more track time to get used, especially to the new compound they introduced last year. It's vastly different to the one we had before. It's a lot more grippy, I think, as well. So I would say I would need a lot more track time and probably just also change my mentality a bit to just drive it a bit harder. I think that's what I need to do.
Would you say that's the biggest difference you've noticed when you compare your driving to Ryan?
100%. 100%. Like every single time I go to the data on the X30 package, it's always like, oh, you got to brake deeper. Oh, you're not braking deep enough. Oh, because you're too early on the brakes, you're not rolling enough into the corners. It's always the same thing. Always the same thing. And that's why I'm also struggling to generate grip because I just don't push it hard enough and there's no heat in the tires. So that's 100% what I need to improve on.
It's always the dilemma, right, of being a driver is how do I find the grip? I mean, would you say you're the type of driver, you kind of alluded to it earlier, because there's really two types of drivers, right? The people that take the weekend slow and build, and the ones that maybe overstep a little bit, go off a couple times, but now they know the limit. Where do you kind of stand on that scale?
I would say I'm more of the first one, I would say. I always take my time a lot with these. When I go into every weekend, I try really to not push the limit and I slowly get into it because I feel like if I try to go like too hard initially, I get bad habits that just carry through the weekend. And you know what they say, bad habits die hard, right? So, I mean, when I start a weekend off like really hard, sometimes it's really hard to go back, and then I have a tendency to overdrive a bit. So I prefer usually to just go a bit slower on the weekend. So maybe like sacrifice 1 or 2 practice where I'm not as fast as what I should be, just to get like a better understanding of the track, of how the package works and stuff. And I think that also that's what I did for Rotax, and I think that really helps as well. Also, just with the confidence overall, like when you go off, you like sometimes like in the back of your mind you get scared of like doing it again. So I mean, personally for me, that's what happens. Like when I go off in one corner, I tend to be a bit more cautious on the few next laps, and sometimes that really costs me a lot. So I try to build it up slowly.
You got to have short-term memory.
Hey, Alex is a great driver coach. He doesn't have nine U.S. national championships, but he'll get you right.
For sure.
Look at his polo, man. Like that's official.
Official as it gets.
That's professional.
Very professional.
Where'd you get that one? I need one.
This guy.
Wait, where is it?
Hey, he asked you a question, bro.
OGO. Oh, OGO. Bro, OGO makes
they
really
free?
good stuff. I'll give you one.
Oh, perfect.
I don't know how
Great.
Ryan. I
Yeah,
don't know how Ryan will feel about that.
I don't have one, but nice.
It's crazy.
I mean, I don't know how I feel about it. It's just a shirt, right? So,
If I give you one, you have to wear it.
oh, do I?
You have to.
Can I
You
wear
have
it
to
on
wear it.
the
You have to wear it for a session.
Roll up Friday morning.
one session? Sure, no problem.
Sunday main event.
We might have a problem then.
Alrighty, Laurent, we're getting to, I guess, the last little bit of our segment with you, and we usually give our guests a time to kind of promote themselves, where we can find you on social media, what you got coming up. I hope we have a full year with you here in the U.S. But yeah, the floor is yours, man. Just a little bit to promote yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm mostly active on my Instagram account. I don't know if somebody could put it up somewhere. I don't know, but
Yeah, I got you.
okay, perfect. Yeah, that's mostly where I'm from, where I post my most recent news. I have a YouTube channel that I post like once a year because I'm not really consistent with it, unlike Ryan. So I would say that's probably the like two biggest platforms people can follow me through. And then for this year, what I have planned, I have a race. My next race after this one is in March for the Rotax Winter Cup. So this year again, I'll be doing the Rotax Euro Trophies, which is the European Championship of Rotax. And last year I didn't do too good, so I'm planning on building up to it. And I might do a couple of US race here and there as well. So I think that's probably my plan for this year. And for sure, Supernats is one race I'm looking forward to at the end of the year.
Well, that's great, and it's been a pleasure having you on. I know me and you share a lot of conversations at the racetrack, but I'm glad we had this little bit of time so people can see what Laurent Legault is all about. Yeah, it's great. And also, is your name with two L's, or is it just that way on your Instagram?
Oh no, that's just because I tried to write my name in it, right? Like I tried to put my name, like just Laurent Legault, but the name was already taken. So like I couldn't put it in, so I had to put another one just to make it work. That's the only reasoning with it.
Crazy. You got any fun plans the rest of this week?
Fun plans. Actually, I've been to Universal on Monday, and that was awesome, man. Like we've had Fast Pass, and we managed to do everything. It was amazing.
Big time.
So,
have you asked Ryan about Disney?
Yeah, I did actually. He told me like a year ago that he had a secret like technique to get Fast Pass, and like I asked about him like on the weekend, and he told me it doesn't work anymore. So I was pretty sad about that. That's why I went to Universal, because the Disney thing doesn't work anymore.
Funny enough, and this is we were waiting in line for the restroom at Orlando, and we're planning on going to Disney next week, right, boys? Next week? Yeah, we're planning on going next week. And I was gonna ask him. He was on the phone, and he walks in. He's like, "Oh, there's a line." And I was like, "Hey, you gotta wait like the rest of us, pal." Like just kind of messing around with him. He laughs and then just turns around and walks out. And I couldn't even ask my Disney question. So, Ryan, if you're watching this, I got some questions to ask you, man.
You should go for it. You'll be in the tent. You can come in anytime.
I won't be there this weekend, sadly. I won't be there this weekend. Yeah, me and Alex are actually swapping out. So Alex is going to be there this weekend, and I'll be there. Me and him will be there back for Scusa. So.
Oh, okay. Then
I'll
Alex,
get the intel. I'll get the intel.
Yeah, Alex isn't as fun as I am. You know that, but he'll be there.
You guys are both amazing.
All righty, Laurent.
Have fun in Texas.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you joining us, and it's been great talking to you, man. We appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you for the invite. Honestly, been great.
Yeah, there'll be more. I'm sure there'll be a lot more.
100%.
But a great job from all of us, and we'll see you soon.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Well, there you guys have it from Laurent Legault. Next up, Caden McQueen's going to be joining the show, but before that, it's a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Are you looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR, with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook today. DPK Americas is bridging the gap between the U.S. and the two-time world champion DPK Alonso Kart factory team in Europe.
In partnership with Team Binnick, they offer drivers a complete career path from the Americas to Europe that allows them to continue their driver development on both sides of the world, all underneath the DPK umbrella.
For more information, contact DPK Americas at max@drivensm.com to take the next step in your driver development journey today.
Join us for the biggest kart racing convention of the year, the 39th OVKA Kart Racing Trade Show and Swap Meet, Saturday, February 1st, Roberts Center, Wilmington, Ohio. Whether you're into sprint karting, dirt and oval racing, road racing, unlimiteds, or vintage karting, there are deals here for you. Shop our 60,000 square foot show floor, filled with the karts, parts, and supplies you need. Network with kart racers of all disciplines from across the country. Get insights from experts at our performance seminars. Visit our Intro to Kart Racing open house to get started in racing. Visit OVKA.com. Vendor registration is now open. OVKA.com.
Alrighty, welcome back to episode number 41 of KC Grid Talk. Emery, I'll give you the honors to preview our next guests here. Prepared something special, a lot of digging to find this, Emery. I'm sure you had to do, but
Yeah. So, for a little bit of backstory, I was in charge of creating the guest graphic for today, and there was about 300 photos in our Dropbox of different photos of all the drivers to sift through. And I was like, this is pretty tiring. I'm not finding exactly what I want. So why not? Let's go back through the source of yourself. And after 10 years of digging, 10 years of going through social media, I came up with, in my opinion, my favorite guest graphic that I've done so far. Apologies for the poor cropping on this. I had some issues getting it to StreamYard. But without further ado, welcome to the show.
hey,
Caden McQueen.
banging.
Absolutely phenomenal picture, man.
That's an old one. That is a very old one.
Gotta say, this was 2014 at the British Grand Prix, no?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was actually there launching a championship for Lewis Hamilton. He back in the day started a kind of like a junior championship, mainly focused on the young drivers called Formula Kart Stars. Yeah, and so we all got invited down to the British Grand Prix, and yeah, that's where it was launched.
Absolutely. And I mean, you had a lot of success as a young driver. You kind of worked your way over throughout the UK, but I mean, first few weeks in America driving kind of, I guess, don't want to say full-time, but certainly consistently in Orlando. How's that been to this point through the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, for sure. It's very different. Probably for the better, it's almost like starting again in a sense of keeping you motivated and wanting you to do better, because it's sometimes a new start's good start. So yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed working with the Energy team. I think the brand that they've got is very good. I think the kart's really good. I think the people in the team are very good, and I'm also enjoying the American side of things. It's all run very differently, but yeah, it's good. It's very good.
What have you, I guess, would have been, I wouldn't say growing pains, but what have you found different about the US than over in the UK?
You guys, especially here at Kart Chase, definitely push the content a lot more, push the driver profiles a lot more. And for me, that's a big thing, especially when a sport is so expensive. To be able to push a driver profile is very, very important, and will end up attracting a lot of people from around the Europe way. I think you'll probably find that a lot more drivers will come over the years, and purely for that. I just think there's a lot more opportunity out here, and I think you guys do a really good job to push that.
Yeah, firstly, thank you for that. Always kind words. How have you liked the food out here? I know it's very different, but how have you liked the food out here?
The meat side of things, good. Anything sweet-wise, chocolate-wise, I hate it. Like back at home, what if I want a twirl? I'll go to the shop, buy a twirl. No way. Not doing that here. So it's not that I should be eating that. I'm supposed to be a racing driver, but anyway.
Is
I don't even know what a
is
twirl is, but yeah.
Is that a Twizzler? Is that a Twizzler?
No, it's a chocolate bar. It's just a
It's a
Cadbury
chocolate bar.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the chocolate and the sweets back at home are a lot better.
Well, that's honestly, it's all part of growing pains, but I'm sure you'll get adjusted. I know you're going back to the UK also. in a couple of weeks, right? We were taking a look at your schedule actually on the grid before you went out for your race. I guess what's it kind of looking for you moving forward?
Yeah, so obviously we've got the next Rotax round this weekend, and then we have the Scusa and Rock all at Orlando. After that, I fly back on the 17th, I think, and then I have a couple of weeks at home, which will be nice to go back and see family and everything like that. So that'll be nice. And then I think I'm back out in March, early March, probably the 9th, to get ready to go to Daytona. Mm-hmm. Then we're in Daytona for a week and go straight to Texas for 2 weeks. So, yeah, very busy, very busy. Even whilst I've been here, you know, some days it's been 7 days a week at the track, testing, you know, yeah. So it's been very busy, very, very busy. Hopefully next week I'll have a couple of days off and be able to go do a bit of tourism.
Great, yeah. It's always a good time, and I'm sure if you guys have a week off in Texas, Texas is a good place. I'm in Texas right now. I'm from Texas, and honestly, go to a boot store, go to a Cavender's, and it'll open your eyes to a world that you have not seen. That's one thing I can tell you to do. But before we get into, I guess, your story and how you kind of came up, let's take a look at your first.
Here comes Caden McQueen.
Let me actually mute that real quick first. My apologies there. I'll get into that. Give me 5 seconds.
Here comes Caden McQueen. Henry Burnett said we needed to be looking for this quick Brit. He's been able to get by his fellow countrymen.
All right, I couldn't get it muted, but we're just gonna watch it and then we're gonna come back.
Here comes Caden McQueen. Henry Burnett said we needed to be looking for this quick Brit. He's been able to get by his fellow countrymen there. Yeah, 6-driver breakaway, as you can see right there. Caden McQueen, in fact, going to the lead. For the first time, McQueen on the Energy will lead here in American racing, his first event here in the U.S., and he leads here in Pro X30. Norberg's going to go back to the lead. Turney's going to come with and watch for Lloyd to try to rough up McQueen a little bit here.
And keep the leader in your sights as we see McQueen now go by on Turney with Lloyd.
They're all coming through. 53.8 for Norberg, 53.7 for McQueen, 53.5 for Turney. He goes purple.
Here's Colin Lloyd now on the outside of Caden McQueen. Turney giving a little love tap that time to Norberg. Now he's got to worry again. McQueen with a note to the inside of Turney. Nearly gets into the side of him. Lloyd loses a spot. Ramos gets through.
You mentioned the fact that Caden McQueen almost got by for second. 0.05 of a second at the line. Norberg just able to nip McQueen.
Well, firstly, let's talk about that first week here in the States. I know you're running this past year with the Croc team in 2024. Were you guys mostly on the X30 package, or were you guys kind of moving around either Rotax or the OK?
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time with Croc doing X30. Had a few races in Rotax just to back at home to try promote the kart, which actually ended up doing really well in the Rotax side of things too. I then came back and done a few races with KR Sport last year in the Rotax side of things. And then, yeah, for this year, came out here. And, yeah, well, to be fair, last year I probably only done 2 races in X30 whilst with KR. I done Kart Masters in England at PFI. And that was basically just to see if I could get a ticket for the Miami Worlds, and then I went and done the Miami Worlds at the end of the year.
Great. And how did the deal with Energy come together? When did you get the call? And when you heard the US, what was kind of going through your head at that moment?
Yeah, for me, it's a big sacrifice, you know, to come out here and do this, the other side of the world from what you're used to, and leaving everyone at home. It definitely took a little bit of thinking, but at the same time, I thought, you know, sometimes you've got to put all of that to a side and do what's the best for you. And it's something different. And like I said at the start, you know, when you do something for so many years, go back to the same track after so many years, sometimes you just need something to start that fire again. So, I was definitely interested from the moment I got the phone call. It was probably about the 13th of December, I think it was. And then they said, look, you know, if you're interested, we want you to fly out Wednesday. And that was the 15th. So I had 2 days. And if I'm honest, pretty much within the first 5 minutes, I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. what's the worst that can happen? If I go out there, do the test, and I enjoy it, then yeah, let's put it into consideration for the next year.
Mm-hmm. And was it Dean that gave you the call, or was it somebody else within the Energy family?
Yeah, there was a few people from the Energy family, but mainly I dealt with Dean because obviously Dean is now running the team out here with the Kennedy family. So yeah, basically most of it was dealt through Dean. I've known Dean for years. I used to race with Harley back in, well, actually the Formula Kart Stars days. When you found that picture from, that's how Dean remembers me.
Yeah. And I guess nextly here, you said you've been doing it for a long time and wanted to reignite that fire. What was the start of karting for you? Like when was the first memory that you have in karting, and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, for me, Martin Hines and Luke Hines had a big part in them. And for you that don't know Martin, he basically helped Lewis back in his day get the deal with McLaren. He also had a big store called GPR, which was located at Silverstone. He sponsored all the big Formula One weekends there, MotoGP. So yeah, he was a very big name. Back in the UK, he was also known as Mr. Karting. He had his finger in everything. Very well known man, very knowledgeable, and was able to put people in the right place. And I've known Luke since I was probably about 7 years old. I was actually the last person to be signed by Martin for the Zip Kart factory team back in probably 2011, I think it was. Yeah, before he passed. It might have been before that, actually. But yeah, so that's kind of where it started, really. Martin picked me up and put me on the program, and yeah, just went from there. And then unfortunately, when he passed, Luke then took over that for me and brought me into the world of motorsport.
And obviously, how old are you now, Caden?
Just turned 21.
Just turned 21. So I guess, talk to me about that middle stage in your career, obviously kind of leading up to this past year. What were you kind of into? I would say your senior days of karting.
Yeah, the senior days of karting, the first year of senior I done was very, very successful, and it was almost where are we going to go from here? My family never really had the budget to go take me down the single seater route or the GT racing or something like that. So I was always working hard to earn the money to put back into racing and working hard to get the sponsorship. And this is why, for me, if the US scene was as big as it is now back then, I would have probably come out earlier, because you guys help the drivers be able to do that, because you actually create a profile for them. Over in England, it's a lot harder to do that. You've almost got to spend a lot of time creating your profile. But I think you guys do a really good job to actually do that and take a little bit of pressure off of, the kids and the families at home, because I feel like you give a lot more opportunity to do anything really and gain sponsors, because you have the social media platforms, you do promote the drivers, you do share all the content, and I think it's a really important thing.
And when you were kind of over in the UK, over in Europe, I mean, how aware were you of the growing presence here? I mean, seeing kind of more drivers from the UK coming over, as well as kind of what we were doing on the broadcast scene and kind of the growth of the US competition.
Yeah, I saw a few clips on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that from you guys, and it always looked interesting. It was always fun to watch. Obviously, knowing Kai came over here last year for a few races, he really enjoyed it. So obviously, when I got the call about it, I did also talk to him about it and see what he thought. But yeah, if I'm honest, I wasn't aware fully. I knew that there was racing here. I knew that you guys pushed a lot for the racing, but I'd never properly looked into it until that call, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, like a month into your journey, I guess, what things have surprised you, and kind of, for good or bad, what have you noticed about US karting?
It's really weird. Like I've raced in all of the countries, like Europe, Spain, Italy, France, obviously England, done all the European championships. And it's weird. The American scene is almost like it's like 5 years behind in some senses, like the way the track layouts are, the way the teams operate, the way some of the events are run. It's almost like 5-10 years behind. But then on the other hand, the food services that you get at the tracks, if I'm right, the Veros and stuff like that, they follow you guys around or follow the events around. The hospitality side is a lot better here. And you guys with the media is definitely a lot better here as well. So there's pros and cons to it. Some things that you see that how they run the events, you think, why do they do it like that? But then other things you go, do you know what? That's a really, really good thing. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a mix and match. Some things are really good. Some things are far behind.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the things that you really feel like are behind here? You talk about how it's ran at some of the racetracks, but what's different?
Well, a prime thing for me, like on the weekend, you've got the flags for the starts. In all of the European tracks and the British tracks, we have something that they call a digiboard. Tells you how long's left or how many laps you've done. It also then comes up with the warning flags and the numbers on the screen, and just little things like that. If for me on the weekend, there was not like the Scooter event where there was 2 flags waving saying that there's 2 laps to go, then the last lap. It was just last lap. There was no flag beforehand. So when you're in a racing situation, you almost want to know how long's left because you want to be able to plan what you're going to do next to put yourself in the best position. So it is, for me, a little bit behind in that sense, just with the stuff like that. In Europe, every single marshal post has a board on it, has a light on it, whether it's a yellow flag, green flag, whatever. You click a button, the light comes on. And it has a different mode. So if it's flashing, then, there's it's just someone's spun or someone's crashed. If it's solid, then it's a full course yellow. And they also do use the flags. And for example, if there is a full course yellow and the leader is, for example, being the safety car, they basically wave the flags, and the lap before it goes green again, the flags will be stationary. And it's just little things like that. It's not that's not the same over here. They do it completely different over here. And yeah, that's for me is a little bit where they're behind on.
Yeah, it also varies from like series to series here. Stars is actually one of the series that I know we were kind of talking a little bit. You guys were kind of eyeing events. Stars is actually one of those events that does have those kind of lights and stuff like that. But I completely agree. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and for me, a big thing as well is having track cameras. If for the British tracks and the European tracks, if there's an incident, they have cameras on the track there for that purpose. Whereas I don't know what the rest of the track's like, but obviously I've only been to Orlando so far, but there's not that many track cameras, or any, if there is, that can actually, the stewards can look at and go, right, okay, well, no, I can prove that because it's on my camera here. And I think that's really important as well, to make everything more fair so that they can actually kind of make it more fair and consistent with the rules.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of rules, what's like a compare and contrast of kind of maybe officiating from what you see here in your limited time here versus what you've seen over obviously the UK?
If I'm honest, I think it's fairly the same because, most officials follow a book. They all follow a rule book. So it is pretty similar. I wouldn't say there's much difference. Like I got called up to the stewards this weekend. Actually, not for my fault. I just had to go in there. And, they ask the same questions and they do the same they go through the same kind of role as what they do anywhere, really. So for that bit, I think they're okay. It's good. So
kind of piggybacking that, I feel like there's this narrative that gets pushed out that, and they're really aggressive, right? And then they come here and some of the things don't fly. Have you felt that so far, that you feel like some of the things that you were allowed to get away with in the UK you couldn't do here?
Yeah, I actually had this conversation on the weekend, like little things like when you're defending, for example, if you're going into a corner and someone defends, we're going around a right and someone's defending, but then they move back out, you can get a penalty for that. And for me, I don't think that's right. I think if you're defending and someone doesn't come to you, you should be able to move back out. Because that's part of racing, because if not, it's easy for them to get a switchback and stuff like that. I just think it's a skill to know when to move back out. So for me, it should be allowed. And it's just, it's silly little things like that will make a big differences in the racing.
It's funny. I've actually been penalized for that.
Yeah.
In 2018, it was a club race at Trackhouse, and Xander was officiating, and Xander gave me a penalty for that.
Bad
That's
boy.
a fun fact. That's a fun fact.
But yeah, for me, like, if there's no contact, then it shouldn't be an issue. If you defend and then decide, okay, I don't need to defend because they're there, then move back out. If there's no contact and you're not put anyone off the track, I don't see an issue with it.
Okay? So you touched on contact a little bit. Is it rougher in the UK and in the European side of things than it is here?
I think it's different. Like for me, being an outsider coming into America, I think a lot of people will want to try be a little bit rougher with me, especially because they have a big thing that all of the English people are really rough. So they almost have to try and make their boundaries known, if that makes sense. So I think yes, it is rougher. A lot of people will just crash into someone because they've done something silly or something from a couple of months ago. Whereas here, I think a lot is let slide. If there's an issue, it gets dealt with. It's done.
Yeah, and one of the cool things I think seeing you, Kai, and Brandon talk this weekend, I went up to you guys and obviously all jokes when I said this, and I was like, man, there's so many Brits here now. Like this is not fun anymore. And Brandon goes, yeah, mate, like we're not here to take part. We're here to take over. And I stood back and I was like, wow, like that was kind of like, how do you feel, I guess, being one of the guys that's opening the doors for a lot of guys, obviously from the UK and other places over in Europe, kind of being the pioneers of like starting to come back over here and I guess take the fight to some of our guys?
Yeah, for me, I think, without being big-headed, I think anywhere the British people go, they're always at the front. And actually, when Brandon said that, it did make me laugh a little bit, looking at them. They're all at the front of the grid, and we're like, actually, yeah, kind of. But obviously, that's not in our intention. We're just coming over here to enjoy ourselves, do something different, and enjoy it. So, we're not doing that. We're not coming over here to try to do that before anyone gets upset or I end up getting crashed into on the weekend. And I say, why did you do that? Well, you said you're coming here to take over. But, no, that's not the case at all. But I do. I think a lot of people do actually look at it in that view. It's quite interesting that he did say that because, like I said, wherever we go, we're always at the front. And I just think that's because the level of our racing back home is very, very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best drivers in the world have come out of England. So I just think that proves our point as well. But I don't really think I have much more to say about
that. Yeah.
I was going to say, just off the last weekend, though, you would say that it's the Canadians taking over.
Yeah, for sure. They were very strong. Laurent done a really, really good job. To be fair, all of the RPG boys did. They were all there fast enough. And Laurent, I heard him say earlier, I was watching before I joined, him say about the tyre situation. I actually think RPG did do a good job with that. I don't think they were at any disadvantage towards the end of Sunday. I think they were actually quite equal. But yeah, for sure, for the point situation, I think they've done a really good job for the championship points anyway. To go out and dominate the Saturday, I think put them in a really good position for the Sunday.
Yeah, and I guess next to here, our producer Riley Kane actually made a good point. Going back to your previous question, what is it about England that I guess helps produce the level of drivers that you guys have produced over the years?
I just think of how we race hard. We race a lot harder. There's no waiting around. We're always fighting, and it's always bunched up. I think our tracks as well allow it to be a little bit more bunched up, so therefore creates a little bit better racing. And I think that just then helps everyone's racecraft. And we do so many days on track. You know, there's so many tracks that are open in the weeks, and a lot of people are on the tracks in the weeks. And yeah, obviously in this sport, you have to be on the track to learn. I think that's a big part of it. You know, the only time you are learning in this sport is by being on the track, and there is a lot of opportunity to be on the track there, even during the weeks.
Yeah, and talk to me about Kart Masters. What's that week like, or that month leading up to Kart Masters? What's that like? I guess leading up to that, what's like a week of that? How does that look?
Yeah, beforehand we're always there testing. Last year we was there for probably a week testing beforehand, maybe a little bit longer. The week of that is really good. That is a great event. It's probably the best event that England puts on it every year. The tension's high. It's a one-off race. Everyone wants to win, so everyone gives it their all. You know, you see desperate moves happen all the time in your type of racing, you know, with all the championships. There it's 10 times worse. Everyone's desperate because everyone wants to win. And when it's a one-off race, no one really cares. You know, the best saying for me that everyone goes into that race is, you either win it or bin it. And that is what everyone says, and that's the way everyone looks at that event.
In America, it's checkers or wreckers. That's what it is over here.
That's nowhere near as good as win it or bin it. Nowhere near. Well, I would say our car.
Hold on. I was just gonna say wait till you race Supernats. That's all I was gonna say.
Have you?
Yeah, I can't wait to do that event.
Yeah,
that is in my calendar for the end of the year. I can't wait to do that.
So obviously that's like our Kart Masters. Walls are inches away from you, and again, you see the same thing that you were talking about with Kart Masters at Supernats, and obviously the level of the event is something else. Vegas, obviously being Vegas, always a great time. Luckily you're 21. You'll be able to enjoy it next year. You'll be able to enjoy it. But yeah, it's honestly a great event. And if you want to compare it to something, I would say it's good. I've never been at Kart Masters. I can't compare it, but Supernats has been a world-class event for us, obviously going there time and time when we do go back. So I'm sure you will definitely enjoy that.
Yeah, no, I can't wait for that. I've been looking forward to that for ages. I've wanted to attend that for a long time. So yeah, for that to be on my calendar for this year, I'm really looking forward to that.
And next here, I kind of want to talk about our side. What was your first week here dealing with us? Obviously, a couple of guys want to go find you, like, hey, put your suit on, helmet. You have your media date. Come take pictures, and obviously paying for the live stream. I know you kind of complained at Xander for that a little bit too.
Yeah, unbelievable. All of my family at home, sitting there wanting to watch, load it up. Oh. So in the end, what I did is I just made an email, paid for it myself, and just give everyone the email and password.
That's how you do it, man. That's how you do it.
You know, definitely cheaper. At least I'm still paying for it. So what? Now I'm on here. Do I at least get that back every month? Or
hey. I have to talk to Xander about that.
That's funny. That's really
funny,
no.
The media day was good. You know, you go there, you take all your shots and all your different little angles as well, which are used for different things. I think it's good.
Yeah, it's great. And actually, our guy Riley does a great job with all that. And I will give a shout out to him. The way that it's all kind of been elevated over the past year, and it's all a matter of just kind of getting better and better and better and trying to make you guys look good, because you guys are the superstars. And I also know this week they were that week they were trying to tell you to do the thing, man. The McQueen thing.
What's that, mate? Sorry.
The Kacha, there you go.
I knew that was coming. Yeah, they were. I need to get some clothes done, don't I?
Yeah, you will.
100%. Dude, you can kind of play with the words a little bit, because you got the energy team, you can get a lightning bolt, and it can just be representing the energy Corsa team. All right.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what we can do. You already have the number. Okay. We're gonna get one. We're gonna make sure that next time you're racing.
Well, I'll tell you what. Who's good here at designing things? Any of you good here at designing things?
Negative.
I think Riley's the right answer for this one.
Yeah. Riley, I know you're listening. You can design me something here.
Oh, I don't know if he's down for that, but we've got enough heads on our team to figure something out at some
Yeah, we'll
point.
figure something
So
out. Some specialized merch for Mr. McQueen here. But nextly, I kind of want to talk about the energy team as a whole, because going in there, obviously, I was in there this past weekend when we tried to put the onboard camera on you. Obviously, didn't work. Our apologies, but it seems like the entire vibe and the feeling around the team is like everybody's happy to be here. Dean's. It seems like the whole chemistry of the team is working that, so it's working out. Sorry, what's it kind of been like this first month here in the States, kind of working with a team, getting accustomed to something new?
Yeah, for me, the team's very organized, and that's why everyone looks so chilled out in the awning. Everyone knows their role, everyone understands what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And for me, that's a really important aspect for everything to run smoothly. This is like their first proper year as running as energy team, and as a team as a whole. Everyone that's in the awning is all new to work together with. So yeah, everyone's got to know each other very fast. Everyone understands each other very fast now, and yeah, it's good. Everything's chilled out. I think everyone does an amazing job. The team's operating very well, and to have 2 drivers in the team and both of them running up at the front, I think that says enough about the team, and about the equipment. The kart's good as well. So yeah, I think there's only bigger and better things to come from these guys, from myself and the team, because we're our 3rd week in running and operating as a team, and to do what we've done and achieve what we have in such a short space of time is really good. So yeah, like I said, there's definitely bigger and better things to come from this team.
Great. That being said, I also want to take a look at this past weekend for you at the Rotax Winter Trophy. I think the audio isn't muted, so we're just gonna watch here from the side. It is muted. Lovely.
Hey.
So we're gonna talk about it here. Obviously, it was kind of an up and down weekend. I would say you had a good qualifying on the Saturday, but on the Sunday, you obviously struggled, sort of a little bit further back. But in
Yeah.
the end, you were also working your way up there. How have you? I know you obviously run the Rotax package over in England, but how has it kind of been bringing it over here on our tracks and obviously on the Mojo tires?
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit difficult than it is back at home. Obviously, back at home, I had KR providing me with all the kit. They've provided me an engine for this week, but I did struggle for power, and that's not anything to do with them. I just think that Rotax is so important to have everything, all the bolt-ons good. You have the engine, but all the bolt-on bits like the exhaust, the carb, a good airbox. Back at home, the boys at KR work tirelessly to get that bit right. So yeah, it is important to have a very good equipment in Rotax. I think there is a little bit of difference. I know Laurent said earlier that it's quite close, but I'm not saying that he's wrong, but for me, when you go to Europe and stuff like that, it is very close. But for us, being a new team, we only run brand new exhausts. That for me isn't good enough. And I know that from back at home. You buy a brand new exhaust, you put an old one on, you'll always find 3/4 tenths in an old exhaust.
Why do you think that is?
Just because basically the old exhaust, the Mark I's exhaust, when the first Evo lot came out, the bit that sits on the end of the actual restrictor is very short, or just welded differently. Some of them are longer because they've had to be replaced and re-welded on, but the insides are just a fraction different. And yeah, the older they are, the more used they are, they're always better. And I've sat on dynos at home when working for KR, building engines and seeing the difference for myself. So yeah, there is a big part to find in the bolt-on parts for a Rotax. So yeah, I struggled a little bit this weekend running new exhaust and stuff like that, but I'm back on track tomorrow straight away, running through some gear, trying to find something that can help us have a little bit more power for the weekend. I think that's the only bit that we struggled with this weekend. I think the kart bit was really good. I don't think I was driving particularly bad. I thought I was quite sensible and safe. So yeah, we just need to find a little bit more in the bit that we've bolted on the side of the go-kart and hopefully have a better round for this weekend.
So if you were to build your ideal engine package based off of every kind of bit and piece that we have in karting, what would you build it as? Would you kind of take more from the Rotax side, IME side, or anything else really when it comes to 125 cc single seat stuff?
It's hard because sometimes I like Rotax. I really like the tire. I really like the Mojo tire, but I really like the power delivery from X30. For me, if you was to go put an X30 on a Mojo tire, it'd be amazing. For me, the tires you use here, they're basically MGs. They're not grippy enough and they don't lay down enough rubber. Whereas the Mojos do the opposite of that. They are grippy and they do lay down the rubber.
Yeah, that's one thing I heard from Kai, actually talking to him this weekend, and we also learned about it too. But he obviously was saying the sidewalls were kind of softer on the Mojo, and
very soft.
How is it like? I guess back-to-back weeks, you've done it for so long, so I would say it's not a hard to adjust. But what are those differences that you do adjust going back and forth week to week from either an MG to a Levanto the week after to a Mojo?
For me, the Levanto is quite soft as well. So there's not too much difference between the Mojo and that. Sorry, the Levanto, is that the one on the X30 or is that the one with the rock?
That's the one with the rock.
Yeah. I was just making sure I got that right. Learning all the new names for all the new tires coming out here is very confusing. But yeah, they're fairly similar in a sense. For me, the Mojo is the softest tire wall. The MG is a really stiff tire wall, so you can actually lean on the tire a little bit more, use the steering wheel a little bit more, and go in a little bit harder. With the Mojos, you kind of just have to brake a little bit earlier and have more of a rolling phase through the corner. And the Mojo tire as well, is when they get hot, that's when they start to lose performance. So it's really, really important to keep them at an optimal temperature throughout the race, really.
Yeah, and obviously strategy for you guys this weekend. I think it was a used set of tires for Saturday, and that same set you guys used it for Sunday. I guess now, having done what you guys did this past weekend and having seen, I guess, the differences, what's kind of your thought process? I know you're not going to give away too much, obviously, but what's your thought process, I guess, coming into rounds 3 and 4?
For me, besides Kai, who obviously saved his tire for a very late period of time, he put his on in the pre-final. I think everyone was kind of almost in the same boat by the time it did get to Sunday's pre-final. Whatever way you look at it, someone actually made a very interesting point to me on the weekend about putting just 2 tires on, 2 new tires, and actually that's not a bad idea. I don't think many people will do it, and the problem is, when you're racing, you have to go with the majority, with whatever the majority do, because everyone's then in the same boat. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens this weekend. Like you said, I'm not going to give too much away because I'm not quite 100% sure what I want to do yet. But we'll play it by ear, and yeah, maybe during the week of testing, I'll put 2 tires on one side of the go-kart and see what happens. See if if there is an advantage,
NASCAR style, man.
Yeah, well, sometimes in Europe we do that. If we've only got 4 tires to put on, 2 fronts, 2 rears, if we're struggling and we just need a little bit more but don't want to put all of them on, we'll just put two tires on and then flip them over. Put the ones that, say if it's the track's more dominant right-handers and the left-hand tires are getting used, so we'll put the new on the left, and then for the final we'll put them on the right-hand side and put the other new on the left. So yeah, there's plenty of ways to do it, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, interesting. And I guess on the conversation of Rotax, have you been to the grand finals?
I haven't. No. Last year was actually my only full year actually racing Rotax.
Okay.
I done the Europeans and I done the British. A few bits of bad luck. The European bit was quite hard as well because you couldn't drop a round, and straight away in the first round at Genk, I got taken out in the final by my teammate. He didn't mean to, but yeah, it's quite hard when that's the case. But I think I finished somewhere 6th, 7th in the Europeans this year, which is not too bad. I'd never been to any of the tracks apart from Genk before, so yeah, to go do that, and yeah, it's quite good, and I enjoyed it, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, so I guess not having been in the grand finals. I know now it seems probably a little far-fetched with how the championship kind of started, but there's obviously more opportunities throughout the year. We have the U.S. Trophy Final here as well. That's a Team USA ticket, but I guess there's different places where you can get it. How special would it be for you to go to the grand finals if that opportunity did arise this year or in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I was there on just gone in Sano, there coaching and a driver. It's very different, that's again another series or event that's run very, very different to the rest of it. I'd like to do it for sure. It'd be very good to do, a very good experience. Just turn up, get the go-kart, build it. Everyone's on the same bit of kit. And for me, that you can't go wrong there. If you can't win that or be at the front of that, but you can in a normal race, then you may have a little bit better kit than the rest of people.
Yeah. And I guess you had a question come in by Aaron. Thoughts on the Praga chassis? I don't know if there's any background on this, but I guess if you have any input on this.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I can't actually talk about another go-kart.
Perfect.
Yeah, energy's really good.
That's exactly. I guess what I was looking for there. So great job. This guy's PR trained, man. They taught you well.
Corporate ready.
Yeah, it's great. If not, I guess we'll move on. An outside perspective here from an incident that I guess went on this past weekend at the track in between obviously one of your countrymen and Kai Hunter and Jensen Burnett. I guess it'd be good to have a driver's perspective from all of us, what it was like this weekend. But I guess having seen the event, what would you kind of say after I guess the incident?
For me, looking at this was a racing incident. I don't know what you guys think.
I can get it to play. It looks
freezing.
Like it froze a little bit.
This is brutal. Played perfectly fine when we first watched it. Now it's
Top tier stop motion video.
all right. Is it gonna work this time?
Yeah.
Here we go.
For me, I'm in agreement with Caden. I mean, just on the incident alone, I think both drivers could have done something to prevent it. You can argue maybe Kai pinched him. You can argue Jensen maybe wasn't fully alongside him. But to me, it's just one of those two guys fighting for the same piece of real estate.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I agree. For me, if I was in Jensen's situation there, we still had a couple of laps to go and the gap was closing, so I'd probably have backed out of it and tried again. He had a little bit of gap behind, so there was no need to make sure that it had to be that move. Maybe if it was the last corner, last lap, then you'd obviously stick to it. But when you see a gap closing, for me, if I was in that situation, I'd probably back out of it and go again. I don't know. It's a difficult one. I think the way that Jensen then clipped the curb, that's probably what actually then caused the crash. But at the same time, could Kai see him? Kai wasn't exactly looking right. He was looking straight at where he was going. Did he know he was there? For me, looking at that is a racing incident. I don't think anyone meant to crash. I don't think anyone meant to swerve or make any contact. I just think they kind of connected and it come out at the worst possible way it could have.
You strike me as a very calculated driver. I mean, I noticed that from the first weekend you were here for SKUSA Winter Series. Where does that kind of stem from?
I just think it's an experience thing. When you've done so many races and raced for such a long time, I think the way I look at things is you've almost got to be a step ahead of everyone that you're racing. I think that's how you win a race. If you win it mentally, you win it on track. And if you calculate things, everything just kind of hopefully falls into your hands and makes it a little bit easier for you. So there's no harm in thinking about what you're going to do next. If you can almost think ahead, then you're almost ahead before anyone else is there.
Yeah, and I guess going back to the incident here, given my input, I know Emery hasn't spoken about it either, but I honestly, watching it again, and we'll play it again here as well for those of you. Hopefully it loads. here. But yeah, I'm honestly gonna have to agree with you guys about it. And you can argue that Jensen, obviously, he was I was obviously talking to him and kind of debriefing what he was kind of going through throughout the weekend, and he was just kind of telling me that he felt like Kai had an upper hand on the rest of the field this past weekend. Obviously, Kai building his own motors, a rocket ship of an engine for Kai. He did a phenomenal job with the power side of things. And Jensen was kind of telling me, he was like, yeah, if I let him get away, he's going to go and win the race on his own. So just, I would have to agree with you guys. It was a racing incident. And I think Jensen just trying not to let Kai get away in that incident. And obviously it kind of fell apart for the both of them.
Yeah. And
just one quick thing there that I just want to put in. We was talking about the power situation earlier, and you was just saying about how Jensen thought he had the upper hand. I want you to go, whoever's there this weekend, when you walk up that grid, look at everyone's exhaust. Look at Kai's exhaust, and look at the rest of everyone's exhaust. Kai's got an old Mark 1 exhaust.
I actually saw that.
How rusty was it?
It was... Honestly, when I rocked up to the grid and I see Kai's exhaust and I see rust on it, I was like, that's not, especially RPG being the class team that it is, you don't see rust on exhaust. But I walk up and I'm looking around, and it's funny you mentioned this because I was looking at exhaust and I see rust on Kai's and I'm like, that doesn't look good. And I see everybody else's are, they're obviously black, but like the shiny, clean. I'm like, okay, like these guys are good. Kai's looks a little rusty, which was now. Funny that you mention it because of your point about it.
Yeah,
this is also
honestly, the older ones are the best ones. And I always analyze everything. I always try to look at everyone's carts just briefly, just because sometimes something I may pick something out and it may help me. But like if you go walk up and down that grid, there'll be a handful of old exhausts. I know Laurent has one because I know exactly where his has come from. Yeah, Kai's definitely for me is one of the oldest on the grid. I think there was a few others that I saw that actually had quite an old one. If you put two exhausts in front of you, a brand new one and a rust bucket, majority would choose a new one. I'd definitely choose the rust bucket.
100%.
There's not many things in karting that you'd go, well, no, I'll have an old one. But that is definitely something.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, at that point too, like if the exhaust has been around long enough to have that level of rust, it's obviously one that was pretty good spec when they first got it too, in terms of they beat out some of the older ones that didn't have the correct kind of advantages, so to speak, in the batch. And so it's been run a decent bit. There's a reason to keep it on. There's a reason to keep dynoing it. I remember with the old Rotax days, so pre-Evo, there's kind of a similar idea, not just with the exhaust, but also there was a batch of cylinders, I think, in 2009, if I remember correctly, that kind of had an advantage that we saw. I think it was for 5 years or so. That no matter what year you got your engine, if you didn't have a 2009 cylinder, it'd be cooked. And I mean, it was completely like that's the one thing I will say. Rotax has done a really good job when it comes to a lot of the specifications that they had. And I think this isn't just a Rotax thing, but there's this conception in racing and karting or really anything where new is fast, new is good, new is the way to go. But if you look through years and years and years of engine history and kind of part history, particularly with Rotax, it's certainly something that comes up over and over again.
Yeah, and also Riley in our private chat brings up a good point. And this is, so for those of you at home, I started karting in 2021. I've actually driven a Rotax, but 206 base guy, I would say. So my experience doesn't go as well as these guys, and obviously nowhere near Caden's. But this is one of the stories that I found super interesting with the Rotax package was with the Minimax turbos, where and it's the stories that I've heard, but you're on the straight, you get up, wiggle a little bit, and it just takes off a lot more than all the rest. And that's honestly, when you hear stuff like that, it sounds silly, but it's yeah, I know. I can't stop but laugh, but Riley's having a good time in our private chat right now.
Well, it's not just that too. They introduced a rev limiter to try to limit this in I think it was 2013 for the finals. And there's a story of all the different ways that the mechanics would use to get around them. You'd stick one in a microwave.
Wow.
Overheat the crap out of it. Try to work. Didn't work. you'd have the hopping method, which is I think the most like notorious Rotax method, and then you end up no matter what you would do, you would no matter what you would do, you had to try to break the traction enough to get it to rev up the engine. And so this was, no matter what the package was, a mini max, it was the way that you broke the revs. And so that's another thing. Good point by Riley there in the chat, that like it makes out of all the stories I think in Rotax, the exhaust is one, the cylinders are one, but man, the turbos from the mini max stage is something else.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just people kind of going out of the way to like find that extra little bit of edge, and that's what our sport's all about. But yeah, Caden, honestly, we're getting to the end of our segment here with you, and it's honestly been a pleasure having you on. And you're actually a hard guy to get on this show. Honestly, we talked about this earlier. Tried to have you on a couple of weeks ago, and you obviously answered me, I think, later in the night, and I was like, all right, well, this guy Caden, and then I didn't go in until I gave you a little bit of crap about it at the racetrack. But it's honestly been a pleasure having you on. And it's honestly, seriously, we've had a great time, and going back and forth has been great.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And yeah, again, things like this, great for the driver, great for a profile. So yeah, no, I just want to say a big well done to you guys as well for being able to do what you guys do for the drivers.
Yeah, and we appreciate you. Honestly, we couldn't do it if we didn't have great personalities in it, like we have you. But at the end of our show, we always give a little bit of time for our guests to obviously promote themselves a little bit, where we can find you on social media, and what you got coming up here in the coming year.
Yeah, so my social media, I mainly use Instagram, which is just Caden McQueen official. And then for this year, yeah, hopefully I'll be doing the American stuff full time, and I'll hopefully see you guys all at all of the events.
Yeah, it'll be great, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of you in the coming months. And enjoy your time off. Also, I know I'm not gonna. I'll see you at SCUSA, but I know after that, I'll say enjoy your time off and have a good time, man. And
what day did you say you was going? You said you was going away to Orlando or something on next
to Disney.
Monday. Yeah, Disney.
Tuesday. So Tuesday we fly in, and I think Wednesday you guys are probably going to be on track, but I'll for sure be at Disney.
I might come.
Hey, you can ride with us, man. Let us know. You've driven the same track for 6 weeks.
I definitely won't be. Definitely will be having 2 days off next week.
Great.
I was at the track yesterday. I've had today off, and I'm back at the track again from now. Well, tomorrow to the end of the week, and then I'm gonna have Monday and Tuesday off next week.
Perfect. Well, enjoy it, and we'll see you soon, man.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. Thank you for having me, and yeah, I'll see you soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Well, there you guys have it from Caden McQueen. Let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we have a little more coming your way.
Are you looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR, with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook today. DPK Americas is bridging the gap between the U.S. and the 2-time world champion DPK Alonso Kart factory team in Europe.
In partnership with Team Binnick, they offer drivers a complete career path from the Americas to Europe that allows them to continue their driver development on both sides of the world, all underneath the DPK umbrella.
For more information, contact DPK Americas at max@drivensm.com to take the next step in your driver development journey today.
Join us for the biggest kart racing convention of the year, the 39th OVKA Kart Racing Trade Show and Swap Meet, Saturday, February 1st, Robert Center, Wilmington, Ohio. Whether you're into sprint karting, dirt and oval racing, road racing, unlimiteds, or vintage karting, there are deals here for you. Shop our 60,000 square foot show floor, filled with the karts, parts, and supplies you need. Network with kart racers of all disciplines from across the country. Get insights from experts at our performance seminars. Visit our Intro to Kart Racing open house to get started in racing. Visit OVKA.com. Vendor registration is now open. OVKA.com.
Alrighty, welcome to the last little bit of our show here. We'll have Alex back on as well if his screen will load. I don't know if it's just like that for me, Emery, but
It's not showing up for me either.
he has been having issues, which is why he was out there for a little bit. But yeah, we'll see if we can get him back on. But obviously, one of the things that I would say kind of went on this weekend, for those of you at the track, for those of you who've seen the viral clip, obviously, on our social media, that obviously did occur. And as Alex was saying, that his Wi-Fi actually went out. But I do want to say, and we have this kind of prepped up here as well, Emery, if you want to throw up that graphic for us. At the end of it, Jensen Burnett posted to his social medias on the comments that Kai Hunter and him spoke after the race and put the whole thing to rest. While I appreciate the support from the community, we both love to race, and I'm sure you'd all rather see us settle this on track next week than have him banned. All of us race because we love it. Racing is hard, but most of all, racing is passion. And sometimes things get out of control. That's all. I love this race. And that says a lot from a very young kid like Jensen Burnett, and for Kai as well. Obviously, in our sport, it honestly, things obviously get heated when you're on a racetrack, heat of the moment. And speaking to Kai after, he recognized it and he apologized obviously to Jensen and to everybody that kind of watched that as well. And I think it says a lot about a driver's character and how he handled the entire situation. So a huge round of applause to Jensen Burnett and Kai Hunter. And as we know, this happens in our sport. We've all had moments where it's happened to us, and it takes a lot of character to get through something like that. And a huge shout out to both of these drivers for putting this past. And this is how things should be settled. And this is something to learn from. You talk to the other guy, you settle it, and it's over with. Back to racing the next week.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do think that there is kind of a middle ground between saying what Kai Hunter did in the direct aftermath of that wreck was unacceptable, right? And I think it's a fair thing to say that. I don't think it's taking anything away from Kai as a person, Kai as a driver, in saying that he overreacted, pulling someone's spark plug wire off and kind of reacting in the way he did with the kart slam is certainly not something that you want to see out of kind of a figurehead for our sport, whether it be in the US or whether it be internationally. And we expect better at Kai Hunter, objectively. Having said that, the way that Kai has handled it since then, the way that Kai talked to Jensen and settled it and apologized for his actions and has clearly kind of made it a priority of his before anyone told him, before there was any threat of a penalty, which there wasn't, or him getting banned, took the time out of his own day to make the apology. That speaks volumes. And
Correct.
It's one of those things that, look, you look back on this, it's not a good look for our sport. It's not a good look for Kai Hunter. That's not going to change just off of one apology. But it's racing. It's life. Sometimes you get caught up in the heat of the moment. You get caught up in a situation where you overreact, and it happens. So Kai Hunter, I mean, amazing tier driver. We've seen it in the US. We've seen it worldwide. We're fortunate to have a driver of his quality over here. He's got to be better than that. You know, it's the simple truth. I think there's a lot of kids that look up to him. There's a lot of people in the paddock that look up to him. But as a community, as Kart Chaser, and as the karting paddock as a whole, I think we owe it to Kai Hunter, and I think that Kai Hunter owes it to everyone in the paddock to continue driving, to continue putting on a show like he did all weekend, short of that one crash. And, you know, we'll all learn from it. We'll all see kind of the positives, and hopefully we'll get a really good race from him and from Jensen this weekend.
Yeah, correct. And he will be back at the racetrack. We will be back. He will be back, and we're excited to see him go out there on the racetrack this weekend, when how all things should be. So we're excited. I know Alex is going to be trackside this weekend as well. For those of you that are going to be at Rotax, find Alex. Alex will give you all his little insights. And yeah, we're excited to be back at the Rotax Winter Trophy. It was a great opening round. It was fun. It was honestly some great racing all weekend long, and we're going to be excited to do it all over again this weekend. But boys, from us here at KC Grid Talk, I think that's a wrap. Homework going on tonight, boys. What do we got? I know Alex is in Atlanta right now, looking to move. So nice. Emery back at Charlotte, or sorry, I should say Chapel Hill.
May or may not be prepping for a law school interview that I found out about while we were in the show. So
nice. Hey, round of applause, Emery Lida. Gonna be a lawyer one day.
Appreciate it. But no, we'll be working. Excited to be back next week. Unfortunately, not making the trip to Orlando this weekend, but you'll see me at SCUSA. I'll be back with some hot takes next week, and we'll be set to go for another week of KC Grid Talk.
Hey, you called it for Aiden and Grotto.
Hey,
I will say
Emery's corner was right 3 weeks late, but it was right.
That's the best, isn't it? You know, I will say, Aiden and Grotto at Orlando, it's the GOAT. It's like Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game.
Okay, enough.
Invitational.
Enough.
It is
the invitational.
The RMC Winter Trophy.
Hey,
is the Aiden and Grotto Invitational to this point.
I will say, our Riley Can is a big Birds fan, and for his sake, just to go against Emery, I will say, go Birds in 2 weeks.
3P.
Fly Eagles, fly EAGLES Eagles. There you go. Hey, shout out to Riley Cannon as well, who's done a great job behind the scenes today, as always. So shout out to him. Shout out to our entire Kart Chaser crew, super hardworking. The boys killed it this past weekend. Carson Clements on the switch, Riley directing, Brandon Simone, Trevor Blue, Nick DeAndrea, Taylor Burris, Jerry Fandry, as always. All killed it this weekend. It's a team effort, and we're a sum of Riley. Remind me how the quote goes. We're a sum of our parts. So it was honestly great. They're going to be back, some new cast members this week. So we'll be excited for us to grow, and we're excited to be back this coming weekend. But from all of us here at KC Grid Talk, we thank you very much for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed having Caden and Laurent on. Honestly, two great guests, and it was a really, really fun time. But for those of you at home, thank you very much for joining us. We wish you a very good night, and we'll see you next week.